everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. I am your host, Darius Sethna. We have a lot to talk about today. We have a birthday to celebrate. We have lots of NBA news going on. This offseason has been busy after the Orlando bubble. World Series just concluded. Wanted to get you updated with that. And Browns bounce back after that tough loss against Pittsburgh. It's all coming up for you right now on the Cleveland Sports Show.
It's over! Cleveland is the city of champions once again! The Cavaliers are NBA champions! At the wall, looking up, it's gone! Francisco Lindor with a 3-run homer in the fourth, and it's 6-0 Cleveland. Baker wants to throw it. Mayfield goes deep for the end zone. Odell Beckham, he's got it! It's a Cleveland touchdown!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Darius Sethna of NordoniaHills.News, and the Cleveland Sports Show starts right now. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. Once again, I am your host, Darius Sethna. As I mentioned, we have a birthday to celebrate today, and that's going to be our sports fact of the day for this week. Today is October 30th, 2020, Friday, October 30th, and today is Argentine soccer superstar Diego Maradona's 60th birthday. And not on this day, in June of 1986 was the FIFA World Cup in Mexico that year. And in the game where Argentina, Diego Maradona's national squad, were going up against England in the World Cup, in the quarterfinals on June 22nd, 1986. This was probably the most iconic Diego Maradona game we know. First of all, the hand of God goal from Diego Maradona, all of you soccer fans would know that one, in the 51st minute. 4 minutes later, Diego Maradona scores what a lot of people say is the greatest goal in World Cup history, with that second goal against England. If you type up Diego Maradona versus England on YouTube 1986, you're going to get that hand of God goal, one of the most controversial goals in World Cup history. And you're also going to get that phenomenal one-on-one goal he had, which was his second goal. Argentina would end up winning that game 2-1 with those 2 goals scored by Diego Maradona. Gary Lineker would score in the 81st minute, but it was all too little too late for England as they would fall out of the World Cup to the hands of pretty much Diego Maradona, and literally the hands, if you count that hand of God goal that he had. If you look that up, that is probably going to be Diego Maradona's most iconic game as a soccer player. And happy birthday, feliz cumpleaños, to Diego Maradona as he celebrates his 60th birthday today. Now, let's move on to our Premier League updates. We're at match day 7 of 38, and we did have a game today. The Wolves defeated Crystal Palace today by a final score of 2-0. An 18th minute goal from Ryan Aït-Nouri, and then a 27th minute goal from Daniel Podence for the Wolves gave them a 2-0 win. In the 86th minute, Luka Milivojevic received a red card for Crystal Palace, so they were playing down a man for the last 4 minutes of this game. And the Wolves, they took advantage in the first half, win this game 2-0. The upcoming games in the Premier League this week, tomorrow, starts off in the morning Eastern Time. Sheffield United will be going up against Manchester City. Burnley will be going up against Chelsea. Liverpool taking on West Ham. Aston Villa going up against Southampton. Newcastle will be going up against Everton. Manchester United facing Arsenal. Tottenham going up against Brighton. Fulham and West Brom. And then our final match of this week for the Premier League is Leeds United going up against Leicester City. The standings for the Premier League: Everton has now taken the top spot in the league. They've won their last 3 games. They're 4-1-1 overall, 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss for 13 total points. Liverpool is in second place now, having won their last 2 games. They're at the same record as Everton, same number of points. The Wolves, who just won 2-0 today, 4 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses on the season for 13 combined points. They are in front of Aston Villa, who are in 4th place. 4 wins, 0 draws, and 1 loss. Leicester City rounds out the top 5 for you in the Premier League this week. Overall stats: Son Heung-min has overtaken Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the top goal scorer in the Premier League so far this season. Son Heung-min of Tottenham Hotspur with 8 goals on the season. As I mentioned, down in 2nd place is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the Englishman, who plays for Everton, with 7 goals on the season. And tied for 3rd place include Jamie Vardy, Mohamed Salah, and Patrick Bamford, each of those players with 6 goals. Harry Kane looks like he will be the first player to reach double-digit assist tallies in the Premier League this year. Harry Kane of Tottenham Hotspur with 8 assists on the season so far. Harry Kane's a striker, so you associate him with goals. However, he leads the league in assists, which is very interesting. And that concludes our overall stats this week in the Premier League so far. Let's get you updated with the MLS and what's been going on there. We had a slate of games this past Wednesday for you, and it included a New York Red Bulls victory over the New England Revolution. The final score of that game, 1-0 in favor of New York. Orlando City defeated Atlanta 4-1 this past Wednesday as well. Cincinnati lost to Sporting Kansas City this Wednesday. Final score of that one, 1-0. Philadelphia defeated Chicago 2-1. NYC defeat Toronto 1-0. Minnesota went up against Colorado as well. They won in Minnesota. Final score of that one, 2-1. Columbus Crew lost to DC United in the nation's capital. DC United defeat the Crew 1-0. FC Dallas defeat Inter Miami 2-1. Portland defeat LA Galaxy 5-2. LAFC defeat the Houston Dynamo. Final score of that one, 2-1. And our final game was San Jose taking on Real Salt Lake. Final score of that game, 2-0. Overall standings right now in the Eastern Conference in the MLS. Philadelphia atop the charts right now in the East, 44 points for them with 13 wins, 5 draws, and only 3 losses. Toronto FC come in at 2nd place with 12 wins, 5 draws, and 4 losses for a combined total of 41 points. The Columbus Crew still in that top 5, so still staying strong for them even after that loss against DC. In 20 games, the Crew have 10 wins, 5 draws, and 5 losses for a combined 35 points. Orlando City, NYCFC, and Nashville round out the top 6 for you in the MLS Eastern Conference. Now, in the Western Conference, it was a battle. This past few weeks, it's been a battle of the Pacific Northwest. However, Sporting Kansas City has crashed that party. Sporting Kansas City now is in 2nd place in the MLS's Western Conference. In front of them, in 1st place, are the Seattle Sounders. Seattle with 10 wins, 5 draws, and 4 losses. Sporting Kansas City, 11 wins, 3 draws, and 6 losses. Portland coming in at 3rd place with 35 points. Portland with 10 wins, 5 draws, and 5 losses. Minnesota, LAFC, and FC Dallas round out that top 6 for you in the MLS's Western Conference. And the top goal scorers so far in the MLS, updated for you. Diego Rossi is still in 1st place with 15 goals on the season, the LAFC striker. And Yassi Zardes of the Columbus Crew, also in double-digit scoring tallies. He has 12 goals on the season. Raul Ruidiaz, Robert Beric of Chicago, and Sergio Santos of Philadelphia, each of those players with 10 goals on the season to tie them for 3rd place. In assists, Alejandro Pozuelo of Toronto FC looks like he's going to be the first player in the MLS to reach double-digit assist tallies. He has 9 assists. Darwin Quintero of the Houston Dynamo with 7 assists, and tied for 3rd place for assists in the MLS so far this year include Brian Rodriguez of LAFC, Christian Espinosa of San Jose, and Diego Valeri of Portland. Let's get you updated with the MLS's respective Ohio teams. We'll start with the Columbus Crew. This past week, they only had 2 games. They had that game down in Houston against the Dynamo. That game finished 1-1, tied game for between Houston and Columbus. Memo Rodriguez in the 37th minute gave Houston a 1-0 lead, and they took that 1-0 lead into the halftime break. However, Victor Cabrera of the Houston Dynamo accidentally put the ball in his own team's net, which therefore forced an own goal, and it forced a tie as well. No one else able to score after that Cabrera own goal in the 67th minute in the second half, and we walk away from Houston with a tie. Houston dominated this game in terms of shots. 24 shots for Houston compared to only 8 for the Crew. 6 of those shots for Houston were on target compared to only 1 for Columbus. Columbus did out-edge Houston in the possession battle. 52% of the possession belonging to the Columbus Crew. 449 passes completed for the Crew, as well as an 85% pass accuracy. After that draw in Houston, the Crew went to Washington, D.C. for a matchup with D.C. United and lost that game in the nation's capital. A Julian Gresso 32nd minute goal gave D.C. United a 1-0 lead, and that was all they needed to secure this victory. In terms of stats for this game, a little more tightly contested. 9 shots for D.C. compared to 7 for the Crew. Each team with only 1 shot on target, and that 1 shot on target for D.C. was obviously the fatal one for the Crew. Crew once again win the possession battle 52-48, just like they did against Houston. Completed 447 passes with an 83% pass accuracy. So I'm not worried about the Crew really turning the ball over when playoff time comes. However, I am a little bit concerned with the little number of shots that they are creating, especially Gialci Zardes he needs to find the back of the net come playoff time as well. He has to get touches, be able to get some more goals, especially with these last few games, warm them up for the start of the playoffs. The remaining schedule for the Columbus Crew includes 2 home games and a road game. The first is a home game against the Philadelphia Union this Sunday, 3:30 p.m., a matinee in Columbus. And they'll then, after that game against Philly, they'll head to Orlando for their final away game of the season with a matchup against Orlando City. And then the Crew will return home to MAPFRE Stadium in Columbus for a matchup against Atlanta United on November 8th. That game will also be an earlier one at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For FC Cincinnati, they had a rather rough week as well. They fell to Minnesota this past Saturday by a final score of 1-0. The goal from Minnesota was scored in the final minutes. Aaron Schoenfeld, in added time, actually, gave Minnesota the win. Very, very tough loss for Cincinnati in this 1-0 loss. Cincinnati actually had 12 shots, 2 of them on target, and they actually controlled possession for this game. 55% of the possession going to Cincinnati. They had 608 passes with an 87% passing accuracy. After that tough loss in Minnesota, the FC Cincinnati were not able to bounce back against Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City defeat FC Cincinnati 1-0 as well. This time, another second-half goal conceded by FC Cincinnati, this time in the 57th minute by Roger Espinosa of Sporting Kansas City, scoring a goal for them, and once again handing Cincinnati a loss on their home turf. For FC Cincinnati, they obviously will not be making the MLS Cup playoffs this year, so they will have 2 more games left for their season. They're both road games as well, so frustrating for FC Cincinnati, not able to pick up that final win at home. They'll be playing Atlanta United this upcoming Sunday at 7 p.m., and then they'll be in Miami for a matchup with Inter Miami next Sunday, November 8th at 3:30 p.m. So Atlanta this Sunday at 7, Miami next Sunday at 3:30. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk some NBA basketball. So, as of this week, there is still no set date for when the 2020-21 NBA season will officially begin. However, there has been a lot of NBA news circulating around the United States these last few days. Lots of coaching changes, so many updates. I just got an update today concerning Mike D'Antoni going to the Nets. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But right now, we're going to talk about a little bit of free agency things and some draft aspects as well before we get to all of the coaching, before we get to the coaching topic. Let's start with that free agency stuff. Now, we've been hearing a lot, free agents, it's going to be a little harder for them to really make a decision, especially if the league decides to push that starting date up to December. However, there was one free agent or a trade, as I would say, that really might make sense for the Boston Celtics. This is one that was, in my eyes, has been very overlooked and one that can really benefit the Celtics in particular. Now, this trade is related to Celtic star Gordon Hayward and Indiana Pacers star Victor Oladipo. And a lot of people are wondering, well, Gordon Hayward has ties to Indianapolis. He's actually from the Indianapolis metropolitan area. So the Pacers are his hometown team. Additionally, Victor Oladipo has been averaging about 19 points per game these last two seasons and has proven himself to be a great all-star as well as a terrific shooter. Now, the Boston Celtics have had trouble with shooting, one, and they've had troubles with having a secured center, a true big man in their starting lineup. That's why if I'm the Boston Celtics and I'm Danny Ainge, I am on the phone with the Indiana Pacers as much as I can be. And here is my proposed trade for the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. I saw the Gordon Hayward to the Pacers topic, and it just took my mind to this trade. Maybe I should be an NBA GM in the future, I don't know. But here is the proposed Celtics-Pacers trade that if I'm Danny Ainge, I want to make. So if I'm the Celtics, I get Victor Oladipo, who I mentioned is averaging 19 points per game. I get Miles Turner, the starting Pacers center, who averages 13 points per game and 6 rebounds per game. And I also get Jeremy Lamb, 12.5 points per game, 4 rebounds per game. The Celtics have also struggled with bench depth. That was a problem this past year for them. If I'm the Celtics, if I can get my hands on Jeremy Lamb and get him on the bench, that's definitely, in my eyes, going to help those bench problems. You have someone to pair with Marcus Smart. You have Brad Wanamaker already coming off the bench. Daniel Tice can come off the bench if Miles Turner is the starter. And Miles Turner is a very, very underrated center. This guy can shoot those outside shots as well. He is the prototypical center in today's NBA. And obviously, your shooting problems are going to decrease rapidly if Victor Oladipo is on your squad. This guy is a fantastic three-point shooter. He can get to the holes, very creative offensive player. And you're probably wondering, well, Jaylen Brown's the starting shooting guard for the Boston Celtics. How is that going to interfere? Well, guess what? You can have Kemba Walker, Victor Oladipo as your starting front court. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, your two young guys, that young core, is your starting front court. And then guess what? Miles Turner rounds it out as the center. That helps Marcus Smart coming back off the bench, where he, in my eyes, shines best. And you also have Jeremy Lamb coming off your bench, along with Brad Wanamaker, Daniel Tice, and Semi Ojeleye or another center. But it definitely helps your bench depth if you get Jeremy Lamb. Now, to get those three players, in my eyes, the Celtics have to give up, obviously, Gordon Hayward. That's the trade. That's really the superstar. That's the meat and cheese of this deal. And then I'm going to give away my young talent if I'm the Celtics. I'm making kind of a risky move here. I'm giving up Romeo Langford. I'm trading Enes Kanter to the Pacers because, the Pacers are obviously going to want some type of big man in return. So give them Enes Kanter. I give away Tremont Waters and Vincent Poirier. 3 of those 5 guys are young core players who you can possibly build around. And if you're the Pacers, maybe that's the way to go, especially if Victor Oladipo is not happy. Is not happy in Indiana. It seems like he's not on the best terms right now in Indiana. Pacers did just get a new head coach, Nate Borgren, who had been an assistant these last few years with the Toronto Raptors under Dwayne Casey and Nick Nurse. He is now the head coach of the Indiana Pacers, so maybe Victor Oladipo doesn't want to work with a new coach, but that's the proposed trade. Let me know what your thoughts are on Twitter. At Nordonia Sports is my Twitter handle. I'm Darius Sethna, spelled Darays Sethna. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. I'm saying Celtics should trade Gordon Hayward for Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner, Jeremy Lamb, along with giving away Gordon Hayward. The Celtics will also have to give up Romeo Langford, Enes Kanter, Tremont Waters, and Vincent Poirier. Give up some young core players. See how it works. It might not work. It may possibly work, but the Pacers are a smart organization. We're not talking about the Knicks here, let's be honest. But you're probably wondering, Darius, why are you talking about the Celtics? I want to know what's going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And guess what? I have some news on the Cavs for you. The NBA draft is coming up in a few weeks, and the Cavs have the fifth overall pick for the second consecutive year. Here are some possible players who the Cavs are interested in, including Isaac Okoro, who is a guard and / forward from Auburn. The Cavs are one of the league's worst defensive teams, so you have Okoro with his unique abilities of power, strength, athleticism, length, size, toughness. I'm getting all of this from an article on Cleveland.com. Chris Fedor, who has done a great job these last few years as a Cavs analyst. I'm looking at Isaac Okoro, Onekeya, on Google. Sorry if I'm butchering these names. I'm kind of reading these a little bit fast for you so I can get into who they are. Okongwu is a 6'9", 245 pounds with a 7'2" wingspan. Averaged about 2.7 blocks as a freshman at USC. Cavs, in my eyes, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, do not need another center. We have enough centers. Andre Drummond is there. Tristan Thompson is there. Kevin Love can play center, honestly, if he had to. He had to play center a little bit when LeBron was there. So, really, and Cedi Osman's a big man. We don't need any more big men. Let's be honest here. You also have Kevin Porter Jr. We have enough big men. What we need, ladies and gentlemen, in my eyes, is what the Celtics need. Another shooter. A bona fide shooter. Because Dylan Windler, who was the Cavs' 26th pick in last year's draft, has not suited up for the Cavs yet. But even if, let's say Dylan Windler shoots the lights out in his first season of playing with the Cavs. Let's say he's one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Guess what? That's only one shooter on your squad. And in today's NBA, you can never have enough shooting. In my eyes, the best option for the Cavs in this year's NBA draft is finding a quality shooter, not another big man. The Cavs already have Kevin Love. Andre Drummond's already there. Tristan Thompson is already there. You have Cedi Osman. You have Kevin Porter Jr. As well. We don't need another big man in my eyes. We need a bona fide shooter because if we have another shooter, along with Dylan Windler, that's not going to put as much pressure on Colin Sexton and Darius Garland to be consistent from three-point range. Sexton and Garland are two guys who can shoot well, but also love getting to the hole. And in my eyes, if the Cavs can get another shooter, now it'll free up Colin Sexton and Garland to drive to the hole, go to the paint, draw fouls, get to the free throw line. To me, that's the bread and butter of their game. That's my news from the Cavs this week. Special thanks to Chris Fedor and that Cleveland.com article. Let's get into what's been going on with the coaching status for the NBA. Breaking news, only a few hours ago, Mike D'Antoni is now going to the Brooklyn Nets, everyone. So the Brooklyn Nets right now on their coaching staff have Mike D'Antoni, you have Steve Nash, who's your head coach, and Amari Stoudemire. Jacques Vaughn is still there. Ladies and gentlemen, the team is stacked. The coaching staff is stacked as well. I mean, this is a team that is just stacked. And to me, it's phenomenal how fast the Brooklyn Nets transitioned. These last few years, they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. And now here they are in the major market of New York City, making noise. I love it. I am so excited to watch the Brooklyn Nets this year. Honestly, I mean, that's the reason I can't wait for the season to start. I'm so excited to watch the Brooklyn Nets, to see Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant play with all these other fantastic players. You have Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Joe Harris, a former Cav. The list goes on. And, you add another Hall of Fame coach to your squad in Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni is familiar with the New York market as well, as he was a head coach for the New York Knicks in the early part of the last decade with Carmelo Anthony. So very, very interested to see what Steve Nash and Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving and company have in store, as well as a stacked Eastern Conference as well. Boston's not going away. Miami's still a threat. Philadelphia with Doc Rivers now at the helm. Man, the East is going to be loaded. We'd always talk about the Western Conference being loaded. East is going to be right there as well. And our final word of news from the NBA includes from the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have hired Stephen Silas to be their next head coach. Stephen Silas most recently was an assistant coach under Rick Carlisle these last 2 years. Luka Doncic, the Maverick superstar, actually credits Silas for really developing him when he came over to the United States to play in the NBA. But let's get you the entire coaching resume of Stephen Silas. It began in 2001 when he became an assistant with the Charlotte Hornets. In 2003, the rookie season for LeBron James, he actually became an assistant for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where he would work alongside his father, Paul Silas. They would work with a rookie LeBron that year, and then the following year, 2 seasons with the Cavs. Stephen Silas would then go to the Golden State Warriors in 2006, where he would be for 4 total years. In 2010, Silas returned to the Charlotte Hornets, and in the 2015-2016 season, the Cavs championship season, Silas would help the Hornets to their highest win total in 14 seasons. He was a member of Steve Clifford's staff in that 2015-2016 season, and in 2018, Silas would find a new job in Texas with Rick Carlisle and the Dallas Mavericks. This past season was his 19th season as an NBA assistant coach. Now going into his 20th season as an NBA in the NBA coaching position. He will have his first head coach experience with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets. Now, Houston got bounced out by LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers in the bubble in Orlando this past season in 5 games, and the Rockets have gone through a little bit of a shakeup in terms of their management. Daryl Morey stepped down as Rockets GM and was now taking a position as GM in Philadelphia, and obviously this newest change with the Rockets organization, Stephen Silas will be coming in as head coach for Houston. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our NBA news this week for the Cleveland Sports Show. Now let's get into the MLB World Series. And it must be a great time in Los Angeles right now. I know the coronavirus pandemic has taken its toll, but I mean, for the city of LA, it must be pretty amazing to be a sports fan right now. Lakers win the NBA title, and now the Dodgers win the World Series for the first time in 32 years. First time since 1988, the Dodgers win a World Series, and it happened this past Tuesday in Game 6. The Tampa Bay Rays were playing against the LA Dodgers. Dodgers defeat Tampa Bay by a final score of 3-1. Up 3-2 in the series, the Dodgers were ready to close this out. However, in the Tampa Bay was holding a lead for the longest time. After the first inning, Tampa Bay was up 1-0, and they would hold that 1-0 lead until the bottom of the 6th inning, where LA would score 2 runs to go up on Tampa Bay. In the 8th inning, LA furthered their advantage with another run, going up 3-1. Blake Snell for Tampa Bay was benched for some odd reason. Don't really understand what the logic was there. But Blake Snell, who has had a terrific World Series, helped the Rays take 2 games in this series. However, in Game 6, he was inexplicably benched, and the Dodgers win this one 3-1, and they win the World Series in 6 games against the Tampa Bay Rays. They win the series 4-2. Here was Clayton Kershaw, the longtime Dodgers pitcher who's been one of the best pitchers in the MLB. Here's what he had to say when answering the question of, could he really still picture what was going on in that moment when he knew the Dodgers had won the World Series? Was he able to come to terms with just what had just happened?
No, I can't yet. It's just, I've been saying, World Series champs in my head over and over again just to see if it'll sink in. And I can't put it into words yet. I'm just so very thankful to be a part of this group of guys, and so very thankful that we get to be on the team that is bringing back a World Series to the Dodger fans after 32 years. And they've waited a long time, and to get to do that, to get to be on the team that did that in LA, you couldn't ask for anything more. It's incredible.
Certainly incredible what the city of LA has gone through these last few weeks. As I mentioned, LeBron James and the LA Lakers winning the franchise's 17th NBA title, and now the Dodgers ending a 32-year drought. First time LA has won the World Series in 32 years, since 1988. One little aspect of controversy, though, did come out of this Game 6 win, and it involved Justin Turner celebrating with the Dodgers after having to have been pulled out in the 7th inning due to a positive coronavirus test. He obviously did test positive, and once the Dodgers won the World Series, he went out and celebrated with the team. The main controversy was caused when Turner took off his mask for a team picture. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make this short and sweet. A lot of people have been talking about this. What should the MLB do? How should they handle this Justin Turner situation? Here's my analysis. In this entire year, 2020 has been a crazy year. We cannot deny that. And we have had to change the way we do daily things. I'm going to school twice a week. I had to get my temperature checked before every soccer game, every soccer practice. We can't have fans in stadiums for professional sports leagues, or if we do have fans, it's a limited number of fans and they have to be socially distant. The point that I'm trying to make is we've had to adjust to new norms. We've had to adapt to new norms this year in 2020. My eyes, Justin Turner had every right to celebrate with the Los Angeles Dodgers on the field, especially having worked so hard to finally win a World Series. However, you don't celebrate in a normal way. You have to adapt to the new ways of life and celebrate in a different way. Maybe don't take the mask off for the team picture. I know it's hard, but maybe that's not the best idea to expose other individuals around you. And maybe socially distant yourself from others when celebrating. Again, I know it's tough, but this year has been tough on everyone, and we unfortunately can't make exceptions even in the World Series. But I do think that Justin Turner should have been out there on the field with his team celebrating. However, you have to be a little bit more disciplined under these circumstances. Really, that's my take on it overall with the Justin Turner situation. But the main news is Dodgers win the MLB World Series for the first time in 32 years since 1988. Clayton Kershaw is finally a champion, and it's great to see that. Definitely got what he deserved. Our final topic of the day, Cleveland sports fans, last Sunday was a fantastic day, and if you don't really remember what happened, let me refresh your memory.
In the back backfield. Two receivers left, one right. Mayfield back to pass. Looks, going towards the end zone, and it's caught by Donovan Peoples-Jones. Touchdown! He got it! He got it! The rookie from Michigan got it with 11 seconds left to go!
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Donovan Peoples-Jones with a game-winning touchdown as the Browns defeated the Cincinnati Bengals this past Sunday against Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. It was a terrific win by Cleveland. It was a very high-scoring game. If you love high scoring, you would have loved this game. Not only was it high scoring, but it was super back and forth as well. Back and forth. One team scores, the next team scores. You just didn't know who was going to get that crucial stop to win the game. Baker Mayfield, after starting out very poorly in this game, had probably one of his best games as a Cleveland Brown. 5 touchdowns. He did have one interception early, but he did end the game with 5 touchdowns. The Browns would go into the half down 17-10 against Cincinnati before it was in fourth quarter. Both teams put the scoring on. 20 points in the fourth quarter alone for Cleveland. Cincinnati with 14 points for the Bengals. Joe Burrow did have an interception, but he had 3 touchdowns as well. It was a great back-and-forth battle between Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield. This was a fantastic game, ladies and gentlemen, down to the wire. Here's what Donovan Peoples-Jones had to say in terms of how he was able to stay ready and execute in one of the biggest moments, honestly, for this entire season for the Browns. Here's what Peoples-Jones had to say.
Just continue to be detailed and focused on everything I'm given, whether that's in practice, whether that's in game, whether that's watching film, whether that's, on my assignment, any given position at any given time.
And those interviews are virtually done, so they're a little less audible to hear, so I do apologize for that. However, Donovan Peoples-Jones, that's a pretty cool name, not going to lie. But he also had a pretty cool afternoon this past Sunday with the game-winning touchdown for the Cleveland Browns. Gives them a 37-34 win against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, who honestly, the Bengals are not playing to what their record shows them. The Bengals have 1 win, 5 losses, and 1 draw. But ladies and gentlemen, they have come short in a lot of games. They've been very competitive this year. They lost by 4 to the Indianapolis Colts. They did get blown out by the Baltimore Ravens, but you can forget about that game. They tied against the Eagles 23-23. They they won against the Jaguars 33-25. They lost to the Chargers by only 3, and they lost to the Browns earlier in September by 5. Ladies and gentlemen, the only blowout loss they had was at Baltimore when they got destroyed by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 27-3. You take out that game, the Bengals have been in some very, very competitive games, and this past game against the Cleveland Browns once again shows you how competitive they can be. This is definitely not a team who is regressing. You can see that with the play of Joe Burrow. They have been fantastic. Now, let's go back to the Cleveland Browns. For the Cleveland Browns, after that 37-34 win, they are now 5-2. 5-2 in the AFC North only gets you to 3rd place, however. Browns 3rd place in the AFC North. The Steelers picked up another win. They are still undefeated. Perfect 6-0. They're 4-0 at home, 2-0 on the road to be more specific. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are 5-1 so far on the season. They've won their last 3 games, and the Cleveland Browns are 5-2, as I mentioned, 3rd in the AFC North. For the Browns, their upcoming schedule, it includes 3 consecutive home games at First Energy Stadium in Cleveland. The first one is this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m., earlier game against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders come in with a record of 3-3, and in their overall standings, they come in at 2nd place in the AFC West. They come in at 2nd, followed, 1 spot below the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes and company are 6-1 on the season. They're 2-1 at home. They're a perfect record on the road, however, 4-0. They have a winning streak of 2 games, and the Las Vegas Raiders are at 500 and are in second place. So they're in rather decent shape right now, but they're going to be going up against an explosive Browns offense who have a lot of momentum going into this game on Sunday. Unfortunately, bad news for Browns fans. Odell Beckham, who suffered an ACL injury on Sunday in Cincinnati, will be out for the rest of the season. We as Browns fans say, Odell Beckham, hope you get well soon. Come back stronger. Hopefully you're still a Brown after this season. We'll see what happens. But in terms of injury updates, Odell Beckham Jr. will be out for the remainder of this season. However, Browns still have a lot of momentum, especially after that gutsy win in Cincinnati against the Bengals. They'll look to continue that and that momentum and start a new winning streak this upcoming Sunday against the Las Vegas Raiders. Once again, kickoff for this game in Cleveland will be at 1 o'clock p.m. live on Fox from First Energy Stadium. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this week's episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for all of your time this week in our latest edition of the show. Wanted to remind you, if you've missed past episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show, do not worry, you will be able to access them. Here's how you can do that. If you're on NordoniaHills.News, go to the contributors section, and if you go to that tab, just click on it. I'm the second name down, Darius Sethna. That's my name. Once you click on my name, you'll be able to see all the past episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show right there for you to click on, as well as articles I have been writing over the past summer and over the coronavirus pandemic, just to stay busy and keep all of you sports fans updated on what's going on. You can also access the Cleveland Sports Show on my Twitter account. As I mentioned earlier in the episode, my Twitter handle is @NordoniaSports, and my name is spelled Darius Sethna. To pronounce it, it's spelled DARAYUSSETHNA. Additionally, the Cleveland Sports Show is on Spotify. You can type in my name, spelled DARAYUSSETHNA, and you will be able to access all the episodes to the Cleveland Sports Show on there as well. You'll have the Cleveland Sports Show on the go on Spotify. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this week's episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. Once again, thank you so much for your time this week. We'll see what the Browns will be able to do. We'll have an update for the on the Browns for you next week, as well as more Premier League action, more MLS action, and we'll see if any more news circulates in the NBA these next coming days. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Have a terrific weekend. Go Browns and stay safe. Take care, everyone.